Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that takes a whole heap of information, sorts through it, and, well, brings you the most fascinating bits.
That's the goal.
And today, we are doing a deep dive into something truly iconic. The Statue of Liberty National Monument.
Instantly recognizable.
Totally. But our mission today is to get, beyond just that image. We want to uncover the history, its meaning, how you actually visit, and honestly, some really weird jurisdictional stuff.
Yeah, that part's wild.
So, okay, let's unpack this because what you think you know about Lady Liberty and Ellis Island, it might just be scratching the surface.
It really is, because the Statue of Liberty National Monument, it's not just the statue people picture. It's actually two key islands, Liberty Island and, of course, Ellis Island.
Right, two distinct places.
Exactly. And, in that pairing, you almost see a glimpse of the American story itself. The ideal liberty right next to the process, the arrival.
That's a really interesting way to frame it. So for anyone listening who maybe hasn't been, what's actually on each island?
Okay, so Liberty Island, that's where you find the star, the 1886 Statue of Liberty. Its official name is Liberty Enlightening the World.
Which most people probably don't call it.
Huh, probably not. It's sculpted by Frederick Auguste Bartholdi. And more recently, they added a really great Statue of Liberty museum there, too. Lots of context, great views.
Okay, and then you hop on the ferry.
And you get to Ellis Island, which is, profound in a different way. It holds the former immigration station buildings.
Including the hospital, right?
Yes. The Ellis Island Immigrant Hospital is part of it. It's a very moving place to walk through, thinking about the millions who pass through.
Gives you chills just thinking about it.
It does. And both islands, the whole monument, it's all managed by the U.S. National Park Service.
Makes sense. Part of the National Parks of New York Harbor Office, specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that always fascinates me about national monuments is how they change, how they grow. How did this one become, well, what it is now? I'm guessing it wasn't always Liberty and Ellis together from day one.
Oh, absolutely not. It definitely evolved. It didn't just appear like this. President Calvin Coolidge first declared it a national monument way back in 1924.
Okay.
But crucially, that was only for the statue itself, just the Copper Lady.
Gotcha. Very limited scope initially.
Right. It took until 1937 for President Franklin D. Roosevelt to expand the monument's boundaries to cover all of what they called Bedloes Island back then.
Bedloes Island, that became Liberty Island later.
Exactly. That name change happened officially in 1956. And then the really big addition, Ellis Island, that wasn't added until May 11th, 1965 by President Lyndon Johnson.
Wow, so quite a span of time. Decades of expansion.
Yeah, reflecting its growing importance, I think.
Right.
And then just a year later, 1966, the whole thing, both islands, gets designated a U.S. Historic District and put on the National Register of Historic Places.
So it's solidified its place in history, but like many historical sites, it's faced some pretty serious modern challenges too, hasn't it?
It really has. Hurricane Sandy, back in October 2012, caused severe damage.
I remember that. Ellis Island was hit particularly hard.
It was. Lots of flooding, infrastructure damage, led to closures, and it really underscored this, increasing reality of hurricanes becoming more frequent or intense in the New York, New Jersey area.
A sobering reminder.
Definitely. And then, of course, more recently, the COVID-19 pandemic.
Right. Global shutdowns.
Both islands had to close completely on March 16, 2020. They did manage partial reopenings later that summer, July and August 2020, but it was a major disruption.
It really says something about the monument's resilience, though, doesn't it? Facing down a major hurricane, then a pandemic.
It really does. It shows it's more than just, stone and copper. It's a symbol the nation works hard to preserve and keep accessible no matter what. The effort put into recovery after Sandy, the careful reopening during COVID, it shows a real commitment.
And thinking about that symbolic power, let's go a bit deeper. Beyond the history, beyond the buildings, what's the core meaning here, especially with these two distinct parts?
Well, the statue itself, obviously, is world famous. A symbol of freedom, liberty. It was a gift from France, 1886, celebrating American independence.
The Franco-American friendship angle.
Right. But then you bring Ellis Island into the picture. The place where millions, literally millions, first set foot in America in the late 19th, early 20th centuries.
The gateway.
Exactly. So the monument together becomes this incredibly powerful reminder of that massive wave of immigration that shaped the country.
It really links the idea of freedom with the experience of seeking it. And there's that poem, isn't there? The one associated with the statue.
Ah, yes. The New Colossus by Emma Lazarus. There's a bronze plaque inside the statue's pedestal, added in 1903. engraved with lines from it.
What are those lines again? They're so powerful.
They really are. It reads, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door."
Every time I hear that, just wow. When you put those words next to the history of Ellis Island, what really jumps out at you? What's maybe the tension or the promise there?
For me, it's how that poem, added, almost 2 decades after the statue was dedicated, fundamentally shifted its meaning in the public eye.
How so?
Well, it wasn't originally conceived as a welcome to immigrants. It was about liberty, the Republic, the French connection. But Lazarus's words transformed it into this mother of exiles, this universal symbol of refuge.
So the meaning evolved.
Dramatically. It shows how symbols aren't static, right? They
Yeah.
absorb new meanings as society changes, as different people arrive and claim a piece of that narrative.
Yeah.
It became a promise.
A promise lifted beside the golden door. That's
Yeah.
really something. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. For people inspired to visit, what are the practical things they need to know? Any quirks to be aware of?
Sure. First off, location. It's in Upper New York Bay. Kind of sits between Jersey City's Liberty State Park to the east and Battery Park in Manhattan to the
Yeah,
southwest.
that's accessible from both states.
Right. And while getting onto the islands, the monument grounds is technically free. You have to take a ferry to get there.
Yeah.
And that ferry ride costs money.
Makes sense. Who runs the ferries now?
Currently, it's a company called Statue Cruises.
Hmm.
And yeah, you can catch them from either Battery Park in New York, the ticket office is inside Castle Clinton, that old fort,
Okay.
or from Liberty State Park in New Jersey. The ticket office there is in the historic Central Railroad of New Jersey Terminal, also known as Communipaw Terminal.
And the ferries hit both islands?
Yep, the standard route stops at both Liberty Island and Ellis Island. You can visit both on one ticket.
Good deal. Now, what about getting inside the statue? Are there special rules?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just to get into the pedestal area, the museum part inside the base, you need a complimentary time ticket along with your ferry ticket. You usually reserve that when you buy the ferry pass.
Okay, pedestal access. But the crown, that's the really coveted ticket, isn't it?
That's the big one. You need a special crown reservation. And these sell out fast, sometimes up to a year in advance. They're very limited.
How limited are we talking?
It's only 10 people allowed up per group, and they only send up about 3 groups an hour. So rough math, it's like 240 people a day total.
Wow. Very exclusive. And I heard security is tighter for the crown climb.
Mm-hmm. You go through a second screening. Basically, you can only bring medication and cameras up. Everything else, bags, food, drinks, has to go into lockers they provide.
No backpacks up those 154 stairs, huh?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And speaking of special access, on Ellis Island, there's something called the Hard Hat Tour.
Oh, I've heard about that. That's the unrestored hospital buildings, right?
Exactly. It takes you through the south side, the Immigrant Hospital complex. It requires an extra fee, a separate ticket, but it's a really powerful kind of raw look at that part of the island's history.
Sounds intense. Have there been any recent changes, like with crowds or access?
Yeah, a couple things. Back in May 2019, they actually banned organized tour groups from certain specific spots.
Really? Which spots?
Places like the statue's observation deck, parts of the Ellis Island Museum. The reasoning was overcrowding, that the groups were blocking pathways for other visitors.
Even though they weren't the majority of visitors.
Right, the Park Service said tour groups were only about 1,000 out of maybe 24,000 daily visitors, but their concentration in certain areas was causing issues.
Interesting. Any other changes? You mentioned storm damage earlier.
Yes, related to that, the ferry service specifically from Liberty State Park in Jersey used to be suspended each year from January through March
Why was that?
for ongoing repairs to the ferry landing there, which had been damaged in storms. They did set up a temporary landing nearby at the old railroad terminal to compensate during those times.
Okay, good to know. Which, speaking of location and states, brings us to that peculiar jurisdiction situation you mentioned earlier.
Ah, yes, the geographical oddity.
It sounds fascinatingly complicated. I know the land itself is federal property, right? Liberty Island since 1800, Ellis since 1808, but the state lines, that's where it gets weird.
That's putting it mildly. What's really fascinating, and most people don't realize this, is that Liberty Island and the original natural part of Ellis Island, about 3.3 acres, are legally considered exclaves of New York.
Exclaves, meaning they belong to New York.
But they're completely surrounded by the state waters and therefore the state territory of New Jersey.
So they're like little islands of New York floating in New Jersey.
Pretty much. Geographically and legally, yes.
Okay, how on earth did that happen? It sounds like a recipe for arguments.
Oh, it was. If you want to connect it to the bigger picture, this whole mess is the result of centuries of history.
Yeah.
You've got colonial land grants going way back, a directive from a provincial governor, a big interstate compact signed between New York and New Jersey in 1834.
An interstate compact.
Yeah, trying to settle boundary disputes in the harbor. Then there were multiple court cases over the years, and it all culminated in a major U.S. Supreme Court decision in 1998.
1998. That recently. What was the case?
New Jersey v. New York. New Jersey basically sued New York over jurisdiction of the filled land on Ellis Island.
The land reclamation part. Okay, so what did the Supreme Court decide? Who gets what?
Well, the court kind of split the difference
Mhm.
based on historical agreements and land creation. The final verdict was the original natural land masses, that's all of Liberty Island, and the original 3.3 acres of Ellis Island remain part of New York City.
Okay, so New York keeps the original bits.
Right.
But
The roughly 24 acres of Ellis Island that were created later by artificial fill, by land reclamation,
yeah.
that land belongs to New Jersey.
No way. So Ellis Island is literally split between two states.
It is. The historic immigration buildings are mostly on the New York part, but a significant chunk of the island, including where the hospital complex sits, is technically New Jersey. And the kicker, all of it, the New York parts and the New Jersey parts, are entirely surrounded by the municipal boundaries of Jersey City, New Jersey.
My head is spinning.
Wow.
Federal land split between two states, surrounded by a city in one of those states. Wow. That is a definite aha moment. That's incredible.
It's a fantastic piece of trivia, but it also has real-world implications for things like, policing, taxes, emergency services. Any jurisdiction that the federal government doesn't handle falls to the correct state.
For a place that symbolizes American unity, that's, it's incredibly complex, isn't it? Almost contradictory.
It really underscores how history, geography, and law can create these incredibly intricate situations, even for our most cherished symbols. But maybe, in a way, maybe that complexity itself is kind of representative. The nation itself is a complex mosaic, right?
Sure.
Built from different pieces, sometimes the disputes, all trying to exist together under one big idea.
That's a fantastic way to put it. And maybe that's the thought we should leave our listeners with today. How this monument, the Statue of Liberty National Monument, this global symbol of American ideals of unity, is itself this really complex thing. A blend of histories, weird geography, constant change and adaptation. It really does kind of mirror the nation it stands for, always evolving, sometimes messy, full of surprising layers, but ultimately striving towards that ideal. Something to definitely think about.